there's an interesting clinical element to this. So we know that thoughts that are associated with self-consciousness are statistically indistinguishable from experiences of negative emotion. So it's literally the case that the more you think about yourself, the more unhappy you are. Unhappy, anxious, grief-stricken, frustrated, disappointed, hurt. And so then you think, well, where do people find the meaning that helps them abide through tragedy and turn their attention away from themselves? And the answer is, well, we don't even have to introduce God into the picture at the moment. You say, well, you find a fair bit of that sustaining meaning through reciprocal relationships. You want to have an intimate relationship of some duration, or it's just a series of short-term psychopathically narcissistic pit stops, which don't seem to do anyone any good. So you want to have an intimate relationship of some duration. You probably want to have a family, at least to have some contact with your parents and your siblings, and perhaps even children if you dare to do that. Likely you need some friends. You probably need something approximating a job or a career. You have to be nested inside a series of superordinate social structures in order to be a functioning individual at all. And so I think conservatives can offer a rejoinder to the liberals and say, you are assuming that individual autonomy is a higher good only because for centuries the individual was so ensconced in superordinate social community by default that you could just ignore that that existed. And now we can't do that anymore because people are so fractionated that they're abandoning, well, marriage, they're abandoning family, they're abandoning friendship, I suppose, in favor of its virtual alternative. And that's catastrophic. And I think young people know this.
I agree with that. And I think that there's a message that young people want to hear, Jordan, which is that their lives can matter and that their sacrifices can matter, and that you find meaning in life not so much by what you gain, but by what you give up. It's not so much by what you accrue to yourself, but it's what you give away to other people. It's who you choose to serve, what you choose to spend your life on. And I think what modern liberalism tells people is demand your rights, demand entitlements, demand the fulfillment of your desires. What conservatives should be saying is, go and find somebody to serve. Go and find something greater than yourself to be part of. Go and give your life to something. And as you do, you'll find that you are able to make the world around you a better place. And you don't do that by again, accruing things to yourself. You don't do that by piling up more rights. You do that by giving yourself away, in a sense, which is, I think, a very fundamental truth that every husband knows, every father knows. And I think that that's something that young people want to hear. They want to be called to something greater than themselves, and liberalism just doesn't offer that. Liberalism is at the end of the day, it's a cult of satisfying your own desire, whatever it may be today, and it leaves people fundamentally alone, adrift, and isolated.
Well, that what you mentioned, that it satisfies the liberal ethos, satisfies what you want today or what you want at this moment. And that also makes it shallow in a non-sustainable way, because I think that if you treat yourself properly, which might be part of a more mature liberal ethos, let's say, then you're not a prisoner of each momentary whim. And the reason for that is that all that happens if you are that is that you betray yourself. And so we know, for example, that psychopaths who are motivated by power and very manipulative and who are in it for the gratification of their own whims do very badly across any reasonable length of time. They're completely incapable of learning from experience, technically. And what that means is they constantly betray themselves. And so if you're pursuing an impulse of hedonism, then to hell with you tomorrow, fundamentally. And next week and next year, you continue to do things that are pleasurable or escapist in the moment, but all it does is drive you downhill across time. Because you should treat yourself as a community that extends across time. And I do think that young people are cottoning onto this in a major way. And it is something that conservatives can lay out in great detail. And this idea about giving, even if you do want the best for yourself in some higher sense, let's say, yourself across time, it's clearly the case that the most effective way to achieve that is to be unbelievably useful and generous to other people. Because there are a lot of other people. And so if you're interacting with them in a manner that is, let's say, self-sacrificing in a reciprocal manner and generous, then they're going to want to interact with you. And so if you interact with 1,000 people in your life and you're generous to all of them and they reciprocate, then you're the beneficiary of 1,000 acts of generosity, 1,000 continual sets of acts of generosity. How can that not be a better approach than trying to maximize your momentary whim, let's say?